JJK 255 leaks and spoilers ahead. This chapter starts off with us learning that Leru, I'm not quite sure how you pronounce his name, from Geto's group has joined the fight with Miguel, so he's not in this alone, and that it was actually he who saved Kusakabe using his curse technique. We're then treated to a flashback where both he and Yuta try to convince Miguel to go fight Sukuna, which he rightfully is reluctant to do. They try to convince him to come help finish off Sukuna since they think he'll be burned out after his fight with Gojo. They also refer to him as an otherworldly being, and we're then given a bit of hype for the merger, with it being implied that the merger is somehow going to be much worse, and even compared to Godzilla being able to stomp out a whole country, and they're implying that it's going to be much worse than what Sukuna at 20 fingers in this fight is potentially going to be for Miguel. Yuta then goes out of his way to even Arthur to do Dogiza for Miguel, but Miguel responds with something that's pretty much hinting at a bit of what's going to be later in this chapter by saying, "Why do you Japanese people seem to think cheery black people will survive just anything?" Then saying Gojo should have came here himself and put his head down and asked him for help. After this, it's just Laru pretty much convincing him that he just wants to give Geto peace and that that's what they should do, stating that when it's all over they can go and see him in heaven, with Miguel jokingly saying that Geto definitely went to hell. He goes on to give his conditions, stating that he'll only fight after both Gojo and Yuta have lost, and Sukuna cannot any longer use his domain. Plus, he'll need Laru fighting by his side because it's better to fight with a friend. We're then sent back to our present set of circumstances, with Laru actually sending Sukuna into a wall. Sukuna retaliates by sending slashes at Miguel, which this part I particularly love because just about 2 chapters ago, we had a very big deal being made about Maki being able to dodge the slashes and even being compared to Maharaja. And now, here comes Miguel quite literally just dancing through the slashes like it's nothing. We're then given the explanation that Laru's curse technique is an imaginary hand that he can send out and project onto someone, and that if the hand is destroyed, he will take 1/10 the damage, meaning it's an okay curse technique, but it's certainly not that great. Hasakuna doesn't even think it's any fun, but then we get to learn that Miguel's technique is called Hakuna Lana, a technique that allows him to find the rhythm of his opponent and easily be able to dodge techniques and further enhance his physical capabilities. We're then treated to another flashback where Gojo goes on to explain that even without a domain, his technique acts in a manner where it buffs him and debuffs his opponent, similar to how a domain would. This to me kind of resembles Kashimo and how his technique also was considered to act similarly to a domain because of its sure hit effect, obviously being somewhat different. Then we reach probably what will be the most infamous portion of this chapter, in which I cannot even describe to you what it was like reading this shit live. It was such an interesting thing because already there were people saying, "Oh, he's black," and now his technique has him dancing, dance monkey dance, and all these other things. Well, I'm like, come on now, cool it. It ain't like that. Gege ain't being that way. It's nothing crazy like that. But then we got this page, and without the context of the page after, I was taken aback. I was like, what the like, genuinely, like, what in the world? Because Gojo goes on to say, right, we're supposed to be getting some Miguel hype. He's talking about how Miguel's physical prowess is truly frightening. And we're about to say, oh, what is this about to be? He then goes on to explain how Japanese sorcerers, 99% of them, enhance their physical techniques with jujutsu. He then goes on to basically say, with the 6 eyes and his ability to truly analyze and know things others cannot possibly know or even begin to fathom, Miguel is strong because he's black. That is quite basically what he says here, where he's like, he has a rare bone structure and starts going on basically about his fucking genetics. Like, prior to the next page, I was at the point where I'm like, okay, I think Gege needs to go ahead and take that break, because what the hell is he cooking with this? What is this even supposed to mean? But then it hits me with the next page. Gege is just the biggest brained person on the planet, because I, silly me, thought people would always say, oh, Gege hates Gojo. Oh, he truly hates Gojo. No, Gojo's really good. He's really well done. He reminds me of a light novel character. The ending that he had reminds me of a bad end. It's really great. And I would even compare it to how Toriyama disliked Vegeta and say that they were both handled similarly well. Only for me to realize with this chapter, no, Gege truly does hate Gojo, because he used this page simply as a way to drag Gojo's name through the mud. that is all this page was for, was just to slander Gojo and make him look bad, and this man has been dead for months. So I will never again be able to say Gege does not actually truly hate Gojo, because he quite clearly does. At this point, it's almost admirable the lengths and how creative he is getting with finding ways to make Gojo look worse. He knew exactly what he was doing, which is exactly why Gojo basically gets trashed on the next page, with Miguel calling him out, saying that the only reason he's saying that is because he's black, and then explaining to Gojo that no, there are non-athletic black people out there, and that he's not special because he's black, he's special because he's him. He then gets back to the fight and showing us that not only does Miguel manage to grab hold of Sukuna and knock him back, but then immediately afterwards, the goat Choso is still alive and comes back hitting Sukuna with a supernova. We then see Yuji come from absolutely nowhere and slam Sukuna straight from overhead with his feet, causing a crater in the ground beneath him. The narrator then goes on to give us context on the world slash, stating that in order for Sukuna to actually use it, he has to use his hand to use a sign called Inmaten, the same sign used for the Malevolent Shrine, but since he lost his hand in Gojo's final Hollow Purple, he ended up having to use a Binding Vow. But since transforming into his original state and without the reliance on a Binding Vow, we now learn he has to use both hands to actually make the sign. And on top of this, he has to actually direct where the world slash is going to go with his other hand. We then see Sukuna's left arm get sliced off as the absolute goat Maki comes back, proving me correct in exactly what I've been saying about how strong Maki and Toji are, with all of you people out there trying to pretend like they can't fight 15 Finger Sukuna, trying to downplay when she just took a hit from a Sukuna that used a Black Flash. And even if he was at half power, that Black Flash would be far stronger than anything he could normally hit her with at his full power when it comes to his physical strikes. Proving my point once again, yes, I'm right. As we see her cut his arm off with a crazed expression and completely unharmed, having completely recovered from being hit with the Black Flash, having completely tanked the attack. We then see Yuji running straight for Sukuna, with Yuji believing that Sukuna can't use his hand signs anymore, that he can't use reverse curse technique anymore, and now they can win. And if this was anyone else running at Sukuna, that might be the case. But since it's Yuji, we know Sukuna is now going to be hater amped, and of course, if Yuji thinks he has a chance, that means he absolutely does not have a chance, and everything is about to go completely downhill, as it does as we see in the next chapter. Sukuna smashes Laru with a Black Flash, staring dead at Yuji, because of course, why wouldn't Sukuna do that? Yuji should not have been the one to try to take him on here. Of course, as I said, he's gonna get a hater amp and be in the zone because he just hates Yuji that much. There's nothing that could possibly motivate him more to be in the zone than to crush Yuji's hopes and dreams. But of course, this is the end of the chapter, and we are not going to be on a break next week, but now we are dealing with a Sukuna that is implied to now possibly have become restored after hitting his second Black Flash. But that's all I've got here. Let me know down below what your thoughts on this current chapter is, and if you think the chapters are starting to get better, or if you think this is still repetitive, as some people have been complaining recently that it has been.